join us. Keep coming to these things and spread the word. We're doing some stuff in other states now, starting to spread out that, and that's going to be really the wave of the future. I think a lot of people are doing stuff from home that they weren't doing before. So we're going to be teaching that part of our training as virtual wholesaling stuff, long distance. Do it from your home and other markets. But you want to switch up again, Vern? We're on our sponsors. Vern, Grand Avenue Ventures and Brokers, and A Better Way Realty. They're one of our sponsors, and Vern's a real estate investor savvy realtor, works a lot of other things going on. He's a top guy in the assisted living area, and also has a meetup on using your IRA for investing. I think that's correct, but Vern helps us here, and he's going to be our co-host here now that I'm in Florida, so we're pretty excited about that. And Privy, I know a lot of you guys are familiar with Privy, but they got some excellent investor type software. If you don't have MLS access, Privy's the next best thing and might be even better. We're using Privy down here to actually help us find investor buyers through just seeing who bought what, before and after stuff that's available. You know, a lot of that information's out there on the MLS, et cetera, but it takes forever to find it. You know, you can research a property all day with Privy. It's super quick. So we really like that stuff. Top That Roofing, they're a local roofing company out of Castle Rock that does commercial and residential roofing. They did our duplex back in Denver, do excellent work. They're on time. What they quote you is what they're going to do. I know that's valuable. They won't be the cheapest guys out there. You might have to negotiate with them. And if you're going to do multiple properties, they'll be quite reasonable. Great guys, honest as the day is long. Home Invest, Nate Armstrong, good friend and business associate of mine. We do turnkey properties in Milwaukee and Chicago, and we're starting to do some down here in Florida, starting to put that together. Nate also is like one of the top Facebook trainers in the nation as far as marketing, looking for motivated sellers in particular on Facebook. I know I tried that for a couple of years, doing the typical Facebook, friend me, share me, whatever, and got nowhere. But Nate's technique's really good. I can tell you right now, I got 50 leads, 50 motivated sellers coming to me in the Florida market in 3 counties in the past 2 weeks. So it works. So he's really good at that. And of course, Darei, we do one-on-one mentoring coaching for a limited amount of students. We are specializing teaching wholesaling, and we're moving into seller financing, specializing in seller financing with Airbnb as the exit strategy, put it on the back end, and do vacation renting. Once this crazy market changes and the COVID scares away and people start doing that again, even though I understand it's coming back now. But so that's what we do here. And Vern, you want to swap up again? Yeah, so Darei, once we get back to the actual live meetings, we're 159 for an individual and 200 for 2 people or a couple. And really recommend you do that. Otherwise, it's $20 to come to a live meeting. And a lot of deals have happened. There are a lot of people, met people that they work with now. And again, my one-on-one mentoring, you can call me at 720-331-2012. Text me. Just put the word mentoring and your name in there, and we'll get into contact with you. I got a couple openings now, so let us know there. And one more, Vern. All right, there we are. So our introduction, we've had our, we've kind of had our networking. If you want, as far as your haves and wants, you can go ahead and put if you got a deal or something, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat area, or you have a service you want to offer to us. But right now, I just want to turn this over to our presenter, Tim. He runs a real estate investment group himself, and he's been doing training people to do fix and flips for quite some time. He'll get into that. He's a good guy. Listen to what he had to say. Been doing a lot, very experienced. So with that, I'll just turn the presentation over to Tim, and away we go.
Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Good evening, everybody. Let me get to the right place so that I can get you guys all squared away. I really appreciate you, Mike and Vern, for letting me in. That's why it doesn't work. All right, hang on, guys. We'll make sure you keep Peter muted for this whole thing.
You do realize I finally had my picture on there instead of a square. So don't mute me. I figured something.
All right.
There it is.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Yes. All right. Fantastic. Well, we're just going to get started right into this thing. You know, some of you guys read my big long bio, which, you know, says some stuff about me, but not everything. I actually was born and raised in Denver, in the southeast part of town. So, you know, being born and raised here is, you know, one of the luckiest things I think I could ever gotten. And I thank my parents for that all the time. So it's been a great place. And I've watched, you know, the southeast part of town blow up. I grew up right next to the tech center. And anybody who's familiar with the south end of town, Arapahoe Road was pretty much the only thing between here and Colorado Springs. And now we know that's no longer the case. So my family used to go drive up and down County Line Road looking for antelope and driving as fast as we could in the station wagon to do, you know, get air behind us. But I was a real estate agent starting in 2004, right after I came down from the mountains. In about 2010, 11, we started a property management company, myself and a gentleman by the name of Lance Becker, called Sticks and Stones, Fine Colorado Property Management. And the reason we built that was because as being agents, we couldn't sell half the houses we had because the sellers were coming to us trying to get out of their properties. In 2009, 10, 11, 12, nobody was buying properties, and they were all going to lose $60,000 to $80,000 on their properties. So what we did was, at that time, we said, listen, let's rent your property. Hopefully you'll break even, and, you know, we'll keep it for a couple of years and wait till the market turn around. So our first, you know, 30 customers were like that. And sure enough, we started the first couple of years out barely making $50 a door, and for the clients. And then all of a sudden, you know, things started to turn around in 2013, 14, 15. And as soon as that started happening, all these people who thought they were going to lose their shirts, after 3 years of us dealing with the headaches, they got to sell those properties for 3 times as much as they were trying to sell them in 2007, 8, and 9. So it was a real great company. Loved it. And still all the stuff we put in place are still there. So if you are looking for a property management company, they're one of the ones I recommend, just because I've known the owner since I was in kindergarten anyways. And he comes from a big, deep background of rental family. I also have a rich dad, poor dad story. My dad was an engineer. He was one of the founding fathers of the GIS industry, which is basically all your Google Maps and everything else that you have on computers. He was the first ones to really start that, because they, in 1969, Public Service Company said we were digging holes trying to find our utility lines and our sewer lines, and nobody could find them. So he developed a way to put them onto from hand-drawn maps onto real maps. So he started it, but the problem was he was too far ahead of his time. He died in 2004 with $28,000 in his pocket. My best friend's dad, who's still alive at, I don't know, something like 80, had 40 properties paid off free and clear in 1989 when we were sophomores in high school that he could retire, and hasn't worked since. and you would never know because he's a millionaire next door. Never know he had any money. So I learned a lot from that family. I'm not quite up to Robert Kiyosaki's level yet, but we're working on that. In 2015, I had the opportunity to take over Invest Success. John Fisher, who we'll talk about later on in the program, started Invest Success in about 2008 or 9, and it's really a training program. And he built it and developed all the core classes to it. And I was lucky enough to see an opportunity. Unfortunately, after he passed, a couple months later, I talked to his widow and said, hey, can I look at the numbers and can I make you an offer? And she said, yeah, because nobody else was going to. So it was really great that what ended up happening is we did an owner carry for part of the down payment and then was able to give her royalties, and we're still paying her royalties. So from something that probably was going to go away and disappear because nobody saw the possibility, instead we've been making her money every month for the last 5 years or so. In 2017, I was part of ICOR, the investment community of the Rockies, which was a great experience. I learned a lot. It really showed me a lot. And in 2019, I let myself be bought out. I just didn't have enough time to do everything. And that's one of the keys to this business, is finding the time. My partner is Vince Koo, who is not on the call right now because he is actually at a property coaching students on how to fix and flip. So we're doing double duty right now. But he's been an investor since 2009. He was part of a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar series. He listened to the ads on TV or somewhere and did it and paid him 30 grand and took him 2.5 years to do a deal. And then finally he met John Fisher, and John told him how to do a deal and gave him a deal. So that's how he got started. So that's me in a nutshell. I always have to do this because I want to make sure you guys know who you're talking to. We're not lawyers, so we don't provide legal advice. We don't provide tax advice either. I don't have a law degree or a license, and I'm not a CPA. So if you ever ask me questions about either of those two things, I'm going to refer you to somebody else. I am a licensed real estate agent here in the state of Colorado. But I probably will not be representing you in any kind of agency form, but I can give you guys advice on real estate stuff. And I'm a recovering property manager. So if you need help with that, please let me know. All right, let's get into this. I got to say something real quick. These Zoom presentations are always a lot harder than you think because you never know if anybody is laughing or smiling, although Peter's got his head cocked to one side, so I know he's listening. And those of you who have heard me before will see some of this stuff is familiar because I believe the basics of flipping is really important to know. And when I teach this, we always go back to the basics because if you start forgetting the basics, you're going to forget things that you need to do. And trust me, that's really important. Do the basics. So who are our investors and investments and what kind of people are they? Well, we have buy and hold investors, like a lot of you out there. Vern and Mike and Sandy are buy and hold investors because the reality is we want to be able to get long-term properties that pay us on a monthly basis. So we need most of us or most of you guys who work for a living need to figure out a way to make income, and buying and holding and keeping those properties for a long period of time is the best way to do that. Now the fix and flip, which is a quick turnaround, you got to make sure the deals are right. And that's really a job. And when it comes down to it, fixing and flipping is a great way to get into this business and learn the business. But I tell all my students that, yeah, fix and flipping is great and you should do it for a year or two. But in reality, you're wanting to buy income generating assets so that you can buy and hold and become that long-term professional investor. And we also have wholesalers that are some of you guys in the room, like Mike teaches, that you go out and find the contracts and resell the contracts and assign the contracts. And to tell you the truth, that's where I get a lot of my deals from, are wholesalers. because I let you guys, the wholesalers in the room, do all the work, all the hard work. I consider the hard work is finding those deals. Now, Mike will disagree with me because he's got 50 leads coming into him in the last 2 weeks, but it's a lot of work when you get down to it. So those are kind of the three groups that I kind of look at as investments. So let's talk about a deal, all right? Because this is why you guys are here. And, you know, there's a lot of groups out there that people that will speak on stuff, and you come out of these things and you don't feel like you got a lot of meat on the bone. I like to give you meat, and, you know, I've got all these secrets that aren't really secrets. Anything I'm teaching you is pretty general. You know, you can learn this anywhere. You can go read a bunch of books. You can go to Bigger Pockets and listen to their podcasts. And, you know, there are probably 101 or 1,001 books about flipping. And they all have everything almost is the same. If you read those books, they'll be all figure out the same. So you just got to remember this stuff. Okay. When you're looking for properties, you got to be general. And if the numbers work, you do the deal. And what I say is be general. One of the most amazing, the usual question I get from people is, how's the market? Where's the best deals? And where should I be buying? And it always boggles my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, what do you mean? Where should you be buying? Yeah, what neighborhood is up and coming? Where should I put my money? Well, in Denver and in this market, there's no real clear-cut area that you should put your money. And if you're going to look at a deal and you're going to pigeonhole yourself to just one area, it's going to be harder and harder to find a deal. So be general. Keep your eyes open. All right. Now, when you're starting out, does it mean that you want to be close to home, or does it really matter? You know, most of the people that I teach on the first time, I say, I want you to be closer to home. And that's usually because you know the market, you know the area, you know the locations, and it makes it a lot easier. So learn the neighborhoods. If you don't know neighborhoods per your investing, per your skills, get to know your neighborhood. You know what the difference is between one side or the other of the streets. And we're going to talk about that a lot more. And seasoned investors, if you know how to do this, you can do this job anywhere. Once you figure out how to lay out what you're looking for and lay out the numbers and find the right people, it's the same system whether you're here within an hour of your house or within 8 hours of your house. You know, could I go down to Florida and get on Mike's boat and we could deal with, you know, we could talk about deals in Florida? Yeah, I'd be absolutely comfortable with that. In fact, he's invited me to go fishing sometime soon. So I'll bring all my gear, Mike.
All right.
And my son.
That's all right. You'll have fun.
Yeah. So, you know, but you got to learn how to do this the right way first, and doing that by home is really important. You know, price is always a factor. And how much capital do you have and how much capital do you want to use? Okay. There's some people with, you know, a couple $100,000 sitting in a savings account right now, making 0.5% or maybe 1%. Do you want to use that money to do something else, or do you want to keep that money in that bank? You know, do you have a house you already own, and do you have any equity in that house? Can you get a HELOC? You know, right now, if most of your mortgage brokers will agree, if you have a house and you have anything over like a 3% mortgage or 3.5% or 4% mortgage, you probably ought to refi that and pull some money out. Because there's nothing worse than having having money in a house that is actually losing money. Because if you pay off your house, unlike my friend Dave Ramsey says, if you pay off your house, then your money's just sitting there doing nothing. You know, it's only going up by the rate that the market's going up. You're not making any money off it. Can you take that money out, reinvest it somewhere else, and make more money? One of the keys is, how do you use your money to make more money? Called leverage. All right, those of you who have known me a long time or have seen my presentations, you always see this, the Fisher 10 Commandments of Real Estate Investing. And I think this is one of the most solid things that in my career I've ever watched and listened to and lived my life by, because it's really important. Number one is don't be greedy. You know, if you're gonna lose a deal for $1,000, you can go up $1,000. If you've got somebody at the end of the deal and you're gonna make, you know, $20,000, but they're gonna fight you for, and you're only gonna make 17, don't be greedy. It's not worth it. It's not worth the fight. Now, if you're going to lose $20,000, that's a whole different story. Don't be greedy. All right. And that includes when people, you know, a lot of the greediness comes in when I get somebody who says, oh, the wholesaler is making $60,000 on this deal. I ask them, are you going to make money on the deal, even if they're making 60? And they usually say yes. So who cares? Be happy for that person. Be happy for the seller. Be happy for the you know, the real estate agent who made that money. Don't be greedy. Number two, you make your money when you buy. And there are two reasons for that. You know, when you buy a house, you know what the ARV is going to be at the end. So you make sure that you make it and buy it with the right numbers at the beginning. So you know everything at the beginning. If you wait and guess what the numbers are going to be at the end, you will lose 9 out of 10 times. So that again, number three, know your numbers going into the deal. All right. You got to know your numbers. The minute you buy or looking at a house, you know your numbers. I do almost all my research sitting right here in this chair in my office before I even get to the house. I pretty much know what I'm going to do, whether I'm buying that house or not. Number four, don't listen to your realtors. All right. And that is kind of a play on words. But the reality of it is your realtors know a lot, but you need to verify the facts. You need to understand what the numbers are. You need to understand how the deal is going to turn out yourself. Because if you rely on realtors or you rely on wholesalers or anybody else, it's not going to work out. I've seen too many people buy properties that thought they were going to, you know, make a ton of money because they listened to the wholesaler or listened to the realtor. A perfect example is what's going on in Windsor Gardens. Windsor Gardens is an over 55 community in the southeast part of Denver. I think there's 500 or 600 units there, all kinds of different units. They're wholesalers that are selling those properties at really great prices right now. And their ARVs look fantastic. But if you only look at the top 3 ARVs in this community, you think you've got a deal. When in actuality, there's 30 properties on the market of the same exact kind that go all the way from, you know, let's just say randomly 275 down to 220. And if you don't have something special and spectacular about yours and unique, you're going to sit there and languish because people can go buy those other ones. So if you have one of the big things is you don't have any stairs. So if you're in an elevator building. Number 2 is if you've got a washer and dryer in your unit, because that's really huge. Excuse me while I sneeze. I need a cough button like on the radio. But yeah, you got to be careful of those projects because they often won't show you the other 30 properties that are on the market. Figures don't lie, but liars figure. You can put anything into a spreadsheet. I know there are a lot of you that are spreadsheet experts, and I am not one of you. But when you put things in a spreadsheet, you know, you can change numbers. Let's say you find a property that you want to buy for $300,000, but oh, maybe I can do it for $275, and I switch it for that. And then oh, maybe my cost of rehab's not going to be $45, it's going to be $35. Oh, look at that. And then let me bump up the ARV just because we're in this great hot market. So I move it up 10 grand. So technically I just moved my price up 30, my net profit up 30 grand. But did I really? Are those real numbers? We can make anything work. It's crazy. So just be careful when you're doing numbers. This is my favorite, and everybody's heard this. Sebastian's heard this. Sandy's heard this. There will always be a deal. All right. I had an interesting email exchange with a guy today who said, what's going to happen when we run out of houses to sell? You know, right now there are 5,600 homes on the market in the greater Denver area. That's the lowest I've ever seen, even back in 2013, 14. And he said, what happens if we don't have any homes to sell? Well, there will always be a divorce. There will always be a job loss. There will always be drugs. There will always be death. There will always be a deal. You just got to be able to recognize it. Number 7, price cures everything. When you get the right price for your property, it will help you along the way. So keep your eyes open for that price and make sure you know your numbers so that you can find those good prices. Know your options. There's always a solution. One of the things that we always get is, if you're going to buy a house, what's your exit strategy? Okay, is there only one? You know, if I only have one exit strategy and something goes wrong, are you prepared to lose some money? You better be. But can you do something different? Can you refinance that house? Can you turn it into a rental? Can you turn it into an Airbnb? How can you save that house? Most of the guys that I know that got in trouble in that Windsor Gardens have turned them into rentals and are just waiting for the time where they can sell them and that they have somebody buy down their mortgage for the year. So know your options. Successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do, which is just huge. Okay. Here you guys are all sitting here on a Monday night with Monday Night Football, or you have family, or you have kids, or, you know, all kinds of stuff going on right now, but you're here learning and willing to learn. And that's huge. It's like everybody who gets up for the Breakfast Club, the John Fisher Breakfast Club that we'll talk about later, at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, because people are willing to do that and their deal's done. So this is really the people who take these classes and go to these groups are really trying to change their lives. And of course, number 10, give back. Take the time to help someone else on their journey. Give them advice, push them in the right direction. If you're brand new and you don't know much, that's great. You tell them that you can call me or Mike or Vern or Peter or Sandy, you know, show them somebody else who knows more. And what I've noticed about this industry that I've been in this part of the world for the last 10 years, this is one of the best giving industries I've ever seen. People are so free with their information and so willing to give it. It's great. Now, you can't take advantage of us because we all have time and energy, but, you know, we're happy to sit down once or twice, give you advice, let you know what we can do. But eventually we've got to make some money. So unfortunately, we're not all rich. Unfortunately, we're trying to be rich, but it takes time. So how do we do this? And why do we do this? And how do we start out on this journey of a fix and flip? Okay. Well, we develop formulas or systems to get us to be able to buy a property. Okay. The systems really help us learn what's going on and helps us save time. Okay. We use them because it gets us in a ballpark neighborhood. Okay. So when I'm looking for a property, I sit in front of my computer, Vern or Mike or somebody sends me a property and I look at their advertisement. And it says 123 Main Street is a 4-bed, 3-bath, 1,800 square foot house. This is the approximate address. Some wholesalers give you the address, others don't. Drives me nuts when you don't, but that's a whole nother story. But then I say, and I look at their numbers, and usually they have numbers on them. So they'll say it's your buy price is at $265, and they think their ARV price is $350 or $340. Now, if I see the numbers $265 to $340, I'm skipping to the next deal. Okay, because $265 to $340 is only $80,000 worth of spread. So I can't really do that. I know my numbers are going to be too high, and that's because I have hard money costs that I have to use, and I know I have to pay commissions, and I know I have to pay closing costs. So I'm going to skip that. Now, if I have $100,000 spread, then I'm looking at that. Okay. And that's really important. That's one of the meat of this group right now. Okay. There's a meat, you know, if you want to take anything from this presentation right now, 100 grand is where I start even looking at a property. All right. Because I have to use hard money. I have to use the most expensive stuff I can. And I have to make sure I do that. So that's really important. I've got my son standing outside my door. I don't know what he's going to ask me, but sorry, guys. No, sorry, guys. I have to be a dad. So that gets us in the ballpark to at least start looking deeper into the property. Okay. Because time and accuracy are very important. My time is very valuable, right? If I'm analyzing all these properties, sitting here looking at all these properties, and then I don't have time to talk to anybody. And I have to also be very accurate to be able to do this. So time and accuracy are very important. It also allows us to make that buy or no buy decision, which is when you get to the property, you should almost know that you're going to buy the property or not. Now, there are wholesalers out there that will make you buy the property on site, will make you give them a $10,000 check, and there are no refunds. Though I don't even go look at those properties, and you guys know who I'm talking about. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, you can message me offline. But I don't do those deals because although I know if I'm going to do that deal or not, and I know I'm going to make that, I still need to do some more due diligence. I still need to get there, look at the fix-up costs, and make sure what I need to do to make sure my numbers work. And I'm not just going to give a $10,000 check to somebody. So we use these estimates to use fix-up costs. Okay, we keep it pretty general. You'll see in a minute. We estimate the after repair value, the ARV and after repair value, and we estimate the maximum allowable offer. Now, the maximum allowable offer is called the MAO. So MAO, like General Mao from one of the Chinese generals. Unfortunately, the maximum allowable offer in our market is not really used anymore. It used to be you wanted to buy a property at 80% of ARV. Now we're really jumping up into the 85, 86% of ARV. So it doesn't really work. So, but in other markets, Florida, Cleveland, St. Louis, you can absolutely use it still. So really using the MAO for a maximum allowable offer is a great way to kind of do this on a quick basis. So when we determine fix-up costs, we are always looking at rehab numbers, okay? We know it's always going to need paint and flooring, and especially in the low to medium price properties. If you can ever get away without it, I'd be shocked. The good thing about new paint is that the house smells fresh. And when people walk into a fresh smelling house, it makes them feel much better. Now, when we talk about rehab costs in Denver, and this is only Metro Denver, so don't take this everywhere else because we have different levels of finishes, but a light rehab in Denver is $40,000. Unless it's a small condo or a really small house, I have never really seen many houses that are under 40K. Okay. So when you do get some of those wholesale deals where they say it's only 25K or 20K to rehab it, be really skeptical of that. I would look at that really hard. A medium rehab, 60 grand. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is I'm using these numbers before I even leave the house to anticipate what they are. And what I do is I look at the pictures. All right. I scan through the pictures and hopefully there's more than one, or hopefully there's more than zero. And I can usually tell what needs to be done from the pictures. You know, you look at little things like cabinets, what kind of hinges and what kind of handles are on the cabinets. If they're gold, if they're bronze or gold, you know you're going to have to replace them. Look at the countertops. Can you see that they all look the same on the top and the side, but on the excess side, it looks like particle board? look for that stuff. Flooring. What color is the carpet? If it's red shag, you know, you can give it to your kid for their college house. I might have had college red shag carpets in my dorm room. It was awesome. You know, you're going to have to replace that stuff. But sometimes you get lucky because 90% of the houses in the greater Denver area have hardwoods underneath those carpets. And a heavy rehab is $80,000 or more. And what we like to see is when you get into a heavy rehab is that you need to make about half or 50% of your rehab cost. So if you're going into some of these bigger properties that are 2,500 square feet, 3,000 square feet, that may be in the, you know, the higher end suburbs of Denver, you're going to have a heavy rehab, and you want to weigh more than just your typical $30,000 or $40,000. All right. So what is a comp? Guys, this is one of the most amazing things in the world is how to comp properties. Because there are two rules of thinking out there. Number one is what all real estate agents are taught when they come out of real estate school, they pass their test and they go in and sit in their room with their managing broker or a trainer, and they start to tell them how to comp properties, how to do a CMA, comparative market analysis. And what they do go straight into is they say, okay, you got to find houses within, you know, a mile, and you should have them within 10% square footage. And that's about it. And they need to have the same bed and baths. Well, that's great and all. And if you're an appraiser, you can do that. And if you're a real estate agent who is selling to people that don't really get it, you can do that because you're selling to the end buyer. And the end buyer is going to live in that property for 3 to 7 years or more. So if you mess up on what the price of that house, the value of the house is, they're going to be okay because they're going to be living in it. As if you're going to fix and flip that house, that doesn't work. Okay. You have to be exactly on the ball to figure out what the comps are. You have to start out with square feet. And I like to stay within 200 square feet of my property that I'm comping. Okay. Or closer. Now this is the next one that's really important, the type of the house, whether it's a ranch or 2-story or a tri-level or a bi-level. Guys, you have to stick to ranches or ranches, 2 stories and 2 stories, tri-level to tri-level. Sometimes you can get away with a tri-level and a bi-level as comps, but you have to make sure you stay ranch to ranch. All right. If you ever get a property that somebody can't show you 3 ranches in a row that are really close and similar, then it's not a deal. Okay. They can't be adding a 2-story. All right. They can't add a tri-level. I've seen those comps before. I've had arguments about those comps before. You just got to stay ranch to ranch, and it's really important. You know, Denver, one thing about Denver is the majority of Denver was built in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Okay. In the 40s, after World War II, they started to come out with suburbs and these mass builders, right? So if you go, so there's some neighborhoods that every house is almost the same. There are other neighborhoods that 3 or 4 houses are the same. So every 4th house is the same. Okay. Modern day, every 4th or 5th house is the same. There are not many different models. And that's still true today. And true back to the 40s, 50s, and 60s, guys. And you'll be amazed when you start looking at the houses from even the 20s, 30s, 40s, they look almost the same as the houses in the 50s and 60s. Now the facade may be different. It may look outside as different, but when you walk into a lot of these houses, the layout is pretty much the same. You know, the Denver Square to the Tudors, they're really pretty close. Now the exterior is totally different. So that throws numbers off a little bit. So you can't comp a Tudor house to a Denver Square house. You can't, you know, something's got to be the same. And you should be able to find a like house in majority of the neighborhoods in the area. So be careful when you go out of neighborhoods and try and compare different areas. And distance and how far away. Most every neighborhood in these suburbs are the same. You know, it's honestly, when you start looking around, you'll start seeing things. And, you know, in the 70s, we had a lot of builders that were building both on the south side and the north side of town. And they would all, and it's just like it is today. It's just like Toll Brothers and Richmond. They go buy tracts of land. They build their series of houses. They try and keep them separate from the other houses that their next door builder was doing. And they just go. And you can tell, and you got to go into these areas and find the same comps. You got to figure out which are the same. Because if you try and compare a 1982 house to a 1987 house, those are two different neighborhoods as well. Beds and baths become really important for the most part, but you know, when beds and baths start coming into play, you can't get, there was always a line, I think, you know, our president said it once on Apprentice that you always add bathrooms and bedrooms. Well, after you get above about 5 bedrooms, you probably don't need any more. 3 baths, 4 baths is probably enough. So don't overdo it by trying to add more. It's amazing how many houses that I know that have like 6 bedrooms sit on the market a long time because people can't comprehend it. And even as rentals. So what we do is, as Sticks and Stones, we would take that 6-bedroom house and we'd make it a 4-bedroom house on our advertisement. The minute we did that, we got them rented and they just got bonuses. So beds and baths. Also, the thing about beds and baths are you need to know what part of town you're in. Okay. Think about the market as a whole. And I've seen Denver do this 4 or 5 cycles. And I know Mike and Bern and Peter have seen this. When you first are young and you finally get that great paying job, and where the millennials are now, or whatever the next generation is, in that 25, 26, 27 range, you're getting married, you've got this great girlfriend, boyfriend, you want to live in the Highlands, you want to live in Wash Park, Platt Park, you want to live in all these cool places, and you want character, and you want great open space so that you can entertain your friends and have parties. And then somewhere in your mid-30s, you start thinking about kids, and you look at yourself and go, wait a minute, I can't raise kids here. My kids can't, you know, and please don't take offense to this, go, you know, well, we won't talk about it. These kids can't go to certain schools. Well, I'm going to have to pay for private school if I'm still living here. And they go, oh, okay, so let's move out to the suburbs. So they all move out to the suburbs. Guess what they need when they move out to the suburbs? More bedrooms, because they're going to have at least 2 kids, if not 3. So they're all moving out to the suburbs. All right. So the suburbs bring in this whole influx of people, and most of those people stay there 15, 20 years because they don't want to move their kids around school if they can help it. So they live in the suburbs. And then as soon as their kids graduate from high school, and what's happened in Colorado, and Vern is a prime example of it, they all move to Castle Pines and Castle Rock, or move up to Windsor or something so they can be on a golf course. And they hang out on golf courses for, 5 or 10 years, and then they realize they're bored out of their mind. And then they want to move back into downtown. They want to move back into Cherry Creek or the Highlands or Wash Park. It's this amazing cycle that they go through. And Denver does this. It's an amazing way to watch Denver do this. And I've seen it over and over again. The neighborhood I just sold a flip in really is still in its early stages of filling back up, because there's still quite a few older people in there. And the 6 months I was working on this project, I barely saw any kids when I started. 6 months later, there are now a lot of kids hanging out. So it's really an amazing area, and it's the suburbs where I grew up. Micro markets are really important, guys, if you're looking at properties. And we'll have time for questions at the end, which I'm sure there'll be some. Micro markets are really important, especially in any town, but you really have to keep your eye on it. And micro markets in Denver, they're everywhere. Because if there's a little neighborhood, even though we talked about those big builders coming in, there were smaller builders that did stuff. Virginia Village and Virginia Vale has a lot of houses that are the same, but there's also a group of houses off Holly and Dahlia, in between Holly and Dahlia, behind that liquor store and the Ace Hardware. They're all 50s mid-century moderns. Those mid-century moderns are going for $100,000 more than the houses around them. Same exact square footage, same exact beds and baths, same ranches, but they're mid-century modern guys. And if you get a comp from somewhere else that's not a mid-century modern, then you're going to lose. Or if you're looking at a property that isn't one of those mid-century moderns, you guys will lose. Okay, so that's a micro market in Denver. There's another micro market over at in Harvey Park that's just like that. A lot of 50s houses that are beautiful that are on a lake, but Harvey Park doesn't have that. All those are yellow brick ranches. So micro markets are really important. Micro markets can even be split up by HOAs. And I keep going to the south part of town because I know it very well. But if you go on Arapahoe Road between University and Broadway, there are about 8 different communities through there. Half of them have HOAs and half of them don't. The ones with HOAs usually go for $50,000 to $80,000 more for 2 reasons. Number one, they have a pool or access to a pool. Number 2, they don't let people put 10 cars in front of their house, have an RV and a boat in front of their house. So it's a huge micro market that you really need to pay attention to. Certain areas that change markets are huge. You know, we talk about major streets being huge. I've told Vern this, I think the first time I met him, he sent, and this was 7 years ago, he sent me comps for a house that was across the street from Cherry Creek High School. Well, Cherry Creek High School happens to sit on a road called Yosemite, and the east side of Yosemite is Cherry Creek Schools. The west side of Yosemite is Denver Public Schools. Same houses on each side of the road, but the ones that go to Cherry Creek High School are $100,000 more than the other side. So school districts play a big role in this as well. So really, when you focus on this, and those of you who are out of state, I'm sure your markets have these as well that you really got to know of. I mean, I know I went looked at property in Cleveland, and we were in Shaker Heights, and 2 blocks away we were somewhere else, and there was, you know, Shaker Heights houses were all 150 to 200. The houses we were looking at were $20,000 to $30,000, and it's just 2 blocks away. Now, COVID, what's happened to COVID? Everybody keeps asking. That's the huge, you know, monkey in the room. Well, like Vern said earlier, COVID just delayed. It took a month off for everybody to breathe, month and a half off for everybody to breathe or have heart attacks if you had a property on the market. And as soon as it loosened up, it took about 3 weeks, and then it went crazy. And the market right now is as good as it gets. Again, 5,600 houses on the market. COVID has not really changed it, and I don't think it's going to change it much in the near future. The seasonality of the Denver market is one of the keys to this thing, and it happened right in the middle of our fastest, hottest time of the year to buy and sell houses, which is March, April, May, and it's just delayed it. So here we are, middle of September. Usually right now it would have stopped. The market would have really slowed down, but we're not seeing any slowdown. So there's a lot of pent-up aggression. So again, in red, make sure they are in like neighborhoods, those houses. All right, I'm gonna get through this, guys. I really appreciate it. We got about 10 minutes left, and then I'll be done. After repair value, again, ARV. This is one of those words that a lot of times when we are in our breakfast club or anywhere else when I'm out, people kind of, most of us know what an ARV is, but if you're new to this business, Acronyms really throw you off. ARV throws you off. You know, I have a funny story. When I was in Cleveland looking at properties, everybody told me that we'd be going to these properties and they may or may not have a POS. And I'm like, okay, great, POS. All I can think about is a piece of shit house, right? Excuse my language. And as I'm going on this tour, I can't understand why they keep talking about this POS. I said, yeah, I know they're junky houses. Well, what I found out halfway through the day, that POS meant point of sale, that things had to get done before they could sell the house. So here I am 4 years ago trying to figure out what a POS is and clueless. So that kind of falls into this ARV thing. So when somebody comes to me and asks me what an ARV is, I never have ill will towards that. I don't blame them. There are a lot of acronyms I won't know. But we figure out the ARV before we go to the property, right when we find it, okay? Because why would you go to the property if you know it's not a deal? If you know the ARV's, you know, 350 and you're buying it at 275, you don't need to waste your time. All right, now if it's right around the corner, right across the street, yeah, maybe that's okay. But I live in Highlands Ranch. It takes me half an hour to get anywhere, unfortunately, but it's my choice. But it takes me half an hour. So think about that, okay? I leave my house at 12 o'clock to go see a house at 12:30, get to a house at 12:30, sit there for half an hour looking at the house, maybe 45 minutes trying to figure it out. If I'm alone, it takes me about 10 minutes. If I'm with other people, it definitely takes 45. And then I get back in the car and it takes me another half an hour to get home. 2 hours out of my day spent looking at one house. Is that efficient? No, it's not efficient. So you got to know the property prices before you go to the property. Now, I contradict myself because when I get new students, I tell new students to go look at every house you can, because I want them to see the difference of the houses. I want them to see the changes because they need the experience. But once you've got experience with this, you don't need to go see every house. And that's really important for people. You don't need to see every house. You get real good at saying no. Okay? People, you can say no. Where do we find deals? Okay? And guys, I have so much more information in my brain that I could have given you tonight, but I wanted to keep it quick and easy. MetroList, RE Colorado. I need to change that C at the end. RE Colorado is a great site. RE Colorado is the public site for the MetroList. And the MLS is where all the agents get their deal. RE Colorado has the same data as the MLS. You just can't search as much. But you can have agents set up searches for you. And this is really a good thing. So call an agent and say, hey, I want to set up some searches. Okay, you got to tell them your criteria. What are you looking for? Where are you looking for it? And you can set it to look at price or location or condition or days on market. Whatever you want to do, have them set up searches so that you get emails every day with these properties. And every day you get to see what's going on and you get to analyze some of those, and you'll get better and better at that. Find an agent. Now, agents aren't going to send you properties just on a whim. You know, they will take a time to set it up and they'll say, okay, I'm going to set this up for you. Don't bug them every day. Agents are so busy right now, it's unreal. I mean, think about you if you're a buyer's agent right now. There's no houses on the market. So every day, 25 houses come up on the market. Guess what everybody does at 7:30 in the morning? All these people looking for houses. They pick up the phone and they call their agent and say, we need to see this now. And they run as quick as they can to go see those houses. So the agents are getting calls at 8 o'clock in the morning and they're like, we need to see this house now, because they need to put an offer in that day. So don't bug your agents. Do your due diligence yourself. Once you know that property is a good one, then you call your agents. There are other free sites out there that work really well. Renav, which is a local site built by Aaron Lebovic and a couple of other local guys. It's been really good. It's had a couple glitches lately, I keep telling them that, so hopefully they fix those up. Zillow, unfortunately, the big gorilla in the room is Zillow. Probably is the best way to search for houses if you don't have access to MLS. I don't love it because I'm good at the MLS. My partner Vince likes Zillow. He's figured it out, and we teach our students that. Redfin's another one. Mike already said Privy. Privy's a great one, especially when you learn how to use it. If you can ever get on one of Vince's example things, use that. And realtor sites are really good. Every real estate agent has an agreement with the Metro List that basically feeds their sites. So they're all good. And usually what I do when I go to look out of state, I use the realtor sites as well. Okay. So when we search, and we're going to go quick through this because this is somewhat of a summary of what we've done. We go to the search page. Criteria, again, be as general as possible. What's your price point? If you can only afford up to $300,000, go to $300,000. But remember, you're trying to buy a property under 300, but hopefully you're selling it over 300. So make sure you go high enough to figure out what the top is in the neighborhood. A lot of these sites have map features that you can scroll over the properties and they'll pop up with numbers. If you don't know a neighborhood, you don't know what's going on, it's a great way to look at properties. Once I found 10 properties or 11 properties for sale in Peoria, Illinois for $90,000. I did get on a plane. I did go see them. They were worth about $2,000. But that's because I found them on Zillow and I was like, oh, this is great. They weren't a deal. And make sure you see those price differences in those micro markets. Really keep an eye on those micro markets. And micro is not a correct word, so I'll fix that. And then, guys, if you don't have some kind of deal or no deal calculator, a fix and flip calculator, try and find one. These really help things. Or if you're an Excel genius, make one. Okay, this is an example of ours. This is not live, so I can't change the numbers. But you need a purchase price. You need an after repair value. You need a cost to fix. You need to know how much your money is going to cost, how much your loan is going to be. You need to know your down payment. You need to know your taxes and insurance. And you need to know your holding costs. And you put those all in a spreadsheet and you figure out if you're going to make any money. And you really want to make at least start with $30,000 per project as a net profit. That way, if something happens, you can absorb some. If you missed the sewer and forgot to put the sewer in your scope of work and you have to come out with $10,000 extra at the end, well, you made 23 instead of 33. Just know that you got to pad yourselves when you're doing this. So your next steps as we kind of wrap this up, take action. Okay, go figure out how to do this. Don't get yourself stuck in a rut. I get a lot of people who come through my course that until they took my course had been trying this for years. All right, just they overanalyze and overanalyze and overanalyze. But you got to learn how to take action. Read books, listen to podcasts. They're great podcasts, Bigger Pockets. Vern has one. There's all kinds of podcasts to listen to. Get educated. Go to ICOR, go to Darei, go to Inc., go to ARL, go to all of this stuff. Come to the Breakfast Club. Get yourself educated. Join a program like myself or like Mike's, because we will get you fast-tracked onto those programs. Network. You guys are here networking. Network, meet more people, have them and ask what they, ask them questions. If you just go into a networking meeting and you stand there like a bump in the log, it's not going to do you any good. You got to ask. Join Invest Success, of course, because I'm doing this for fun, because I like to help people. Okay. And here's what we are. We're a local mentorship program. We coach for a full year. All right. We do property tours with you. We walk properties. We have an accountability call to make sure that you're doing what you want to do. We teach classes at properties being flipped. That my students are at a class right now. Vince just bought a new flip. He's at it right now. And in 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to be back at it to see the finished product. You know, we save you money. Mike and I teach you how to do this. So we save you money and you make more money. It's an amazing program that if you just start out the right way, you'll jump, leap, bounds, and forward above everybody else. Okay. Here's my information. So you guys can call me. I will send this deck out to Vern, and Vern will get a link out to you guys so that you guys can take this and take notes. Feel free to set up a half-hour call with me, and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. The John Fisher Breakfast Club that we talked about a little bit in passing. It's the second Saturday of every month at 7 a.m. Yes, it's at 7 a.m. It used to be at 6:30 until people like Peter complained about it. But so I moved it back half.
Wait a minute, I never complained. I was always there at 6:15, so I never complained.
But it's a great meeting. It's 30 seconds. You get to say who you are, what you do. We also talk about 20 minutes about the market and what's going on. And then we have more networking. You do need to buy tickets because we do sell out. And right now with COVID, we can't have any walk-ins, unfortunately. So please, if you have questions about that, go to invest-success.com, go to the Breakfast Club link. So in summary, we know you guys can invest in real estate. You can do it, all right? Learn how to do it and go do it. What your ARV should be, you gotta learn how to do that, okay? You gotta watch for outliers though, just in case. You know, if a property seems too good to be true, and ARV seems too good to be true, watch out for that. Stay in those same neighborhoods, guys. It's so important, those micro neighborhoods, really important. Stay with those like houses, ranches to ranches, 2 stories to 2 stories, tri-levels to tri-levels. Stay with similar square footage, okay? Really keep it close. And guys, if everything looks right in a deal, do it. Don't overanalyze yourself out of that deal. Just do that deal because it's right, because you trust yourself. I've seen too many people overanalyze themselves out of deals. It's amazing how much that happens. And that is it. I'm sure there are some questions. And if Vern can help facilitate anything like that.
Okay,
And if you
guys,
don't have any,
yeah, just go ahead and speak up at this point.
yeah. But you got to take yourself off mute. Did I put you all to sleep or something? It's the hardest part about this thing. You never know if everybody's sleeping on you or not.
Right, right. You did good, Tim. That, you know, I'll have to say I've seen a lot of people go through Tim's program, and man, the guys are out there just making it happen. And I've seen guys that have gone through this program that, you know, 3, 4 years later, they're still doing this. So it works. You know, his knowledge is good.
Yep. I just try and put you guys in the right position to be able to do it. And what I like to do is get you the basics, and then everybody can do what they need to do for themselves. So that's really you learn the basics from us, and then you can go on to learn anything. You can learn how to do commercial and storage and, you know, all kinds of shopping centers and development. And you just realize that everything's kind of the same. It's just you go from smaller things to bigger things, just a bunch of different zeros. So questions? Well, that's good. Now I can go watch the Raiders lose.
You must have done a good job, Tim. No question.
Tim, Peter Diamond, I've been associated with you sort of for the last 3.5, almost 4 years. And I cannot tell you how important knowing you has been. And I constantly come to these meetings with you speaking because you're the one I learn the most from. And I really appreciate when you do it. And I appreciate Vern hosting. And Mike, thank you for being the sponsorship behind this. But seriously, these conversations with Tim are the best I ever run into. Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like we got a question from CC. after you work the numbers and buffer and get to the main action, how do you deal with contractors, making sure projects don't get lots of change orders and therefore throw your numbers off? That's another 6-hour session, CC. But the basics of it is your scope of work really needs to be detailed. And if you write a detailed scope of work, room by room, line by line, that's going to save you a lot from the mishaps. Being able to communicate in writing with your contractor is really the key part. So scope of work is huge and something that you and the contractor can both agree on and they understand it. So scope of work is how you save that in a nutshell. And I could add another 4 hours with that scope of work, but unfortunately we don't have time. But thank you for that question.
Might be another meeting, Tim.
Well, yes, but after I give away all my secrets, nobody's going to want to come pay me.
Oh, that's true.
One thing you said, Tim, which is so true, is just taking action. And we've all seen it. There's so many people out there who try to get involved. And there's nothing wrong with, the things you suggested, bigger pockets, podcasts. I got people who are professional podcast watchers, but they never take action. So working with somebody like yourself, have them, put a little skin in the game and have somebody hold them accountable is where I see people actually taking steps forward and doing something in this business.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of students that I've had to not strong arm, but they're always at events and for 2-3 years, and finally you got to sit them down and say, do you really want to do this or not? And if you do, let's get down and let's get serious.
Hey Tim, question. This might be scope of work too, but how do you prevent like a general contractor if they lowball your bid to do the fix and flip, and then all of a sudden they get a higher bid somewhere else and they tend to lag on your project and do the other project, or is that for a different?
Well, it's a great question, Earl. And, it's one of the hard things about right now with the contractors. They have a lot of business. But if you can keep them on track, keep them paid on time, keep them going with materials, and don't let them get off track, and keep them on their scope of work and keep them on their timeline, that's a huge part. It's when they get a lull, even a day lull or something, where they get screwed up and they go to another job. It's sometimes hard to get them on it. It's one of the big struggles we all have with contractors. But if you can keep them paid, you can keep them going. You never need if you're going to buy your stuff, if you're going to, own or purchase stuff, make sure it's there on time so they don't have an excuse to get off your job. And if you're going to do, if you're getting permits and inspectors, and whether you're pulling the permits or they're meeting the inspectors there, get those permits done as soon as they say something, because that delays them as well. And the minute they're delayed one day, they're off. And, contractors bring in subcontractors. And if they miss a day without that subcontractor's on to the next deal. And he doesn't come back for weeks. So it's really a juggling act. I look at contractors as artists and doctors. If you ever hear doctors, you've heard doctors are not really great business people. Artists are not good business people. That's why doctors hire office managers. They're not good business people. And contractors are the same thing, because they're builders. They're building things. And unless they have a good team around them that can keep them coordinated, once they get 3 or 4 jobs, they're really hard to get working on time. So just be really cautious about that. But really keeping them on the job is one of the big keys.
Do you
I
pay
think
them on
the biggest advantage is just being present.
Sorry, Earl, go ahead.
do you pay them on a weekly basis or on scope, on the scope of their job? Like if they get so much done, then they get paid for that?
Yeah, everybody's a little bit different. Some guys like it on a weekly basis. Some guys like it in chunks. It depends on what you negotiate up front. Tend to do it in smaller periods, smaller time frames, and smaller numbers, so they don't get themselves caught up. Because if they pay out 20 grand and they don't have any money to pay their guys, then they're stuck. So I kind of try and keep it a little bit smaller. But if I get a hard money loan from somebody and they're doing their draws based on what's done, I have to deal with them in order to get the contractor paid. So it's kind of a catch-22 that you just develop a system for. And really what you want to do is, if you can use the same contractor over and over again, know how they work, they know how you work, then you can get even better deals.
So
One more question. One more question. In regards to your hard money, do you get some hard money lenders saying, okay, you'll pay your full amount at the end, or do they tend to say, well, you're going to have to pay every month?
Majority of them want monthly payments. There are a few out there that you can find that will take it all at the end. More of those are private money that'll do that. But there are some that'll do it on a case-by-case basis. And, you got to become kind of experienced when you find those guys and work with a lot of people. So it just depends on who you work with.
Tim, do you find that sometimes your contractors are good for 5 or 6 jobs and then they fall off the face of the earth and you need to find the next contractor?
Yep. I'm always interviewing new contractors. Always going through them, trying to find more. We have, our students. One thing we don't do for our students is hand them contractors or hand them everything. We've had lists of people, but we really want them to learn how to deal with these contractors so that they can go forward with them and learn the whole process. So, and plus, if they get busy and they bail on one of my students, then I look bad. So I really want us to kind of keep looking for new contractors as well. Marcy, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask you for suggestions on how do you go about finding contractors? Obviously, networking is helpful, but are there any other suggestions you have? And also, same thing with hard money lenders. Do you have suggestions about sort of shortcuts on who has the best deals? Today, I got an offer for like 2 points and 10 or 12%, I forget how much, but they were just like, yeah, we'll give you the money tomorrow. So it was expensive, but they're like, well, here you go. So anyway, I just started looking into that. I wondered if you had advice on either of those searches.
The way I look at it is the guys who show up at, Breakfast Club, I tend to work with, and people I've built relationships with that show up to Darei and ICOR and, all these other groups. The people who show up over and over again, I tend to trust more. We get a lot of people, a lot of hard money lenders that fly in, fly out, fly in, fly out. You don't know where they go. I get a call about twice a week from a hard money lender offering me something. And I'm like, well, show me who you are and come to my events and I'll know you. And, because I don't always trust them. I don't always know who they are. So I really work with people and I ask Vern, I ask people around here, who do you use? We have Boomerang Capital is good. Aloha Capital is also good. Mark Leiker with Civic Financial. There are all kinds of people that show up to these meetings over and over again. I know I went fast there, Marcy, sorry.
I'm taking notes. You have notes.
But Boomerang Capital is good. Aloha. But some Pine Financial is good. They're really expensive, but they'll almost loan 100 and 100%.
Yeah, that's what these people said today. They're just very like, yep, here you go. They looked at the property. They're like, sure. We can close that in 5 days. I'm like, yeah, but you're super expensive.
Well, Marcy, remember, numbers are numbers. It's only a line item in your sheet. So if it doesn't matter how much it costs, if you're going to make money on it still.
Marcy, who's that company that you're talking about?
It's a big one, actually, or at least it looks like a big one. If you give me 10 seconds, I'll tell you. The guy is based out of Steamboat Springs that I talked to. And just give me half a second. I'm going to tell you. I get a lot of emails in the day. Fairview
Fairview?
Lending.
Okay.
Do you know anything about them?
No.
Not ringing a bell to me. Anybody else?
No, well, a couple people in this meeting have approached me, but no, that's the only one I've done so far today. And then somebody else was referred to me by a contractor I'm using, and she was so nice and so helpful. But the particular property I'm looking at right now is in Summit County. And a tip for everybody that I learned about Summit, a lot of people up there don't like Zillow and they refuse to use it. So if you only use Zillow, you'll be missing out on properties. That can't be the only place that feels that way. So I was pretty Zillow heavy in my searches, but now I know that I better look elsewhere. That's a little tip I learned this week.
Yeah, that's where you go on those realtor websites because they have direct access to their MLS.
Okay.
So,
And we had Susan Auburn on
oh yeah,
here with us.
Merchants Mortgage.
Looks like she's gone.
Yeah, she wrote me. She sent me her info.
Okay, good.
I like Merchants. They're really good to work with, and I think they're at 10-2 right now.
Do you think you talked about it earlier, but you like HELOCs? I could do a HELOC, I think, if I can figure out how to do it. A nice man that I met tonight in the breakout rooms, Jonathan, suggested First Bank.
Yeah, First Bank likes can do some portfolio stuff. Yeah, as you get bigger, they get easier to work with. Until you're big, they're a little bit tight, but once you get big, they're real easy to work with, and they fund a lot of stuff around, and they're real local too. So if you're going to go First Bank, go to one of the branches and meet one of the vice presidents of the branches or presidents of the branches, and that's the best way to get into First Bank.
Okay, that's a good tip. Thank you. How about looking for contractors? That's a harder one.
Well, so what I do when I'm about ready to start a new project, I put it out there on Facebook, get some recommendations. I also, Home Advisor is a decent one to look up. I get but you kind of want to stay away from the top guys at Home Advisor because they're always real expensive and kind of go to the back end of Home Advisor. I think it's just asking. More people you ask, the more people you get to know. Facebook really is a good place to find people because they recommend people. So I've been having a lot of success of that way and going into the Facebook, groups and messengers and stuff like that. It's a good way to get people.
Okay, thank you.
I agree with that. Every time I'm looking for somebody, if I go to Facebook, I get over a half dozen recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Peter Diamond is a conventional non-QM lender, so he may have some opportunity, especially if you need to do a HELOC. He may have some some more creative ways to do a HELOC. So he's on the call. Don't laugh at his hair.
What's non-QM?
What is QM? Qualified mortgages. So it's not an FHA secured product.
Okay.
It's usually private lenders and brokerages that provide the money. And it's for like self-employed people, people with a credit hiccup, what we call a debt service rental loan, things that are not in the typical conventional or FHA market. It gives a wide range of helping investors do things that they can't normally do. Most banks, like First Bank, stops you at 4 houses on loans. So if you want to go more than that, you go to a non-QM lender who will go up to 20, 25, even 50 homes that they'll loan on you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Peter. Anybody else have any more questions for Tim?
Cool.
Well, Tim, you did a great job tonight. We really appreciate you joining us and sharing some of your knowledge. And, I'd have to say to everybody here that while I don't flip, I've certainly considered it. And I tell you what, if I was going to flip, I would go through Tim's program just because the knowledge and the experience that you get out of that is well worth it. Flipping's not a one-time thing that you just do and, okay, I did that. Thank you very much. It's something that you get into. It's kind of a job, if you want to call it that, because you're going to do more than one a year. You ought to be doing, 4 to 6 a year. Every flipper I know that's successful is in those kind of numbers. So paying for Tim's knowledge will get you there a lot quicker. And personally, Tim, if we ever sell the sign company, we'll probably do some flips and I'll come see you at that point. But
You know where I am.
our bandwidth is just too full right now for taking on another JOB.
Yep. You know where I am, Vern.
That I do. Yes, sir.
Can I just
Hey,
ask
Tim.
just one more nuancey kind of question? Just, I saw a lot of people overinvest in, pre-08, pre the crash. And I just want to make sure, I'm getting up there in my number of properties. Is there like any great formula for, okay, now you're over leveraged or you're, I don't know. Any thoughts about that? Just because, we all saw what happened, or all those of us who were around for it saw what happened in '08. I just don't want to be a woulda, shoulda, coulda.
So Marcy,
Yeah.
think you have to sell any of your properties to survive?
No, not right now. I don't.
Okay. So do you think in the near future you'll have to sell any of your properties to survive?
If I keep going at this rate, yeah.
Okay. So the only way you lost money in 08, 9, and 10 is because you had to sell your properties. If you would have kept them and held them and lowered rents to even losing money, if you would have lost $200 or $300 a month for 4 years, the market in 2014 was triple what it was in 2007.
It's true.
So, and that's a philosophy that people don't understand is if you don't have to sell, why sell? Okay, just because everybody else is going down the drain doesn't mean you have to. You have to look at your individual situation and say, all right, if 5 of your tenants disappear, how long can you afford to pay a mortgage on 5 of those properties? Okay, or can you get people into your properties at a lower price and get them just paying something? So you're only losing, instead of $5,000 a month, you're losing $500 a month. Can you survive that? So
you're saying kind of look at your survival rate. What would it take to keep you afloat if things went sideways?
Mm-hmm. Almost everybody we dealt with in 2007, 8, and 9 that had properties, they wrote it out and they bought more. I mean, they bought more in 2008 and 9. An amazing story that never made the papers or anything, and it was real quiet. About 2010, right at basically the bottom of the market, Warren Buffett and a bunch of hedge funds came in and were buying thousands of properties at a time, just offering people money, and not even pennies on the dollar. They were offering people legitimately what those houses were worth. They kept them for 3 or 4 years. They rented them all, and then they started selling them. So our inventory, if you look at our inventory in those years, we went from 33,000 houses down to 10,000 houses in about less than 2 years. So, and that was because those hedge funds bought all those properties and turned them into rentals. And now they're selling them. Nobody's talked about that. Nobody even gets that they did that. So you just, if you're getting to that point, you just got to buy when it happens. Don't worry about selling, buy it.
Yeah, I understand Robert Kiyosaki was one of those.
I'm sure he was. Yeah. Buffett did it. Bill Gates did it. They all did it. But we didn't, a lot of us didn't see that. And, when you're newer into the business and you're like, oh, it's crashing, great. But when you come out of that, you're like, oh, I should have just bought and held.
So Tim, one question I had for you was about hedge funds or portfolio funds,
Mm-hmm.
and who you might recommend that might have available portfolio funds that you've used in the past?
Well, I think when you get bigger, Peter has some of those, First Bank does, but also the smaller community banks have the ability to be able to approve that stuff. North Valley Bank's a bank I use. American National is another bank. The community banks that have boards and stuff that are local here really have that type of opportunity to move. And, you know, they want good people that have a lot of business. So, you know, they're conservative on the numbers, but if you get in good with one of them, they become easier and easier to work with. And Mike may have more people like that as well that he's done business with out here. But those types of guys are the ones you want to see.
Can you
Thank
just do a 12-second definition of what a portfolio mortgage really is, or whatever you're talking about?
It's pretty much wrapping all your mortgages into some bigger mortgages and people that are more commercial. It's more of a commercial loan than it is a residential loan.
Okay, more like apartment complexes, that kind of thing.
Yeah, or more units, you know, 8 to 10 units. I think 10 units is the most that any FHA backed mortgager will have. So you need to, once you get over that price, you have to get into these bigger properties. Calvin Newton down in Colorado Springs does a lot of that stuff. He won't look at anything under $1 million. So, but he can put loans on multiple properties as well.
Yeah, or Susan, what I'm looking at is multiple residential single families into a single loan.
Yeah. Yep. And Susan, merchants might do some of that as well. So call Susan and see. Cool.
Thank you.
Marcy is the most questioner ever.
Oh, this was good for me. I was quiet.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to wrap up the meeting, but what we will do is leave this open for some networking afterward, just like, hey, when we're at our meeting place live, you know, we don't kick everybody out right away. So I want to remind everybody to put your information into the chat, and that way you can network with people down the road. You have their contact information, you can save that chat. So make sure that you do have your info in there. And we'll wrap up the meeting so that, you know, if you want to head out or go home, we're already home, or go to bed, you can do that. But we will leave it open for probably the next 15 minutes for some networking between you guys, and that gives everybody time to go in there and actually save the chat. So, hey, Mike, I know it's late for you out in Florida. It's way past your bedtime.
It's past my bedtime. Yeah, man. Holy cow.
You got fishing to do in the morning, I know.
Yeah.
And Tim, thank you very much.
Not tomorrow, unfortunately, but hey, soon.
Yeah. And I'll send that deck to Vern, and Vern can get it all to you guys.
Yeah, and we did record this too, so maybe we can get it up on the website as well.
Okay. I'm out of here. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, Tim. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a great evening and a safe drive home.
See you guys.
Bye.